Hello everybody, my name is Megan Bellardo, and first I want to thank you for participating tonight. I know that you have lots of choices of how you could spend this hour. I know you didn't have just a free hour with nothing to do, and I know that this is a really busy time of year, so I truly appreciate your willingness to share your time with me tonight. And I'm excited to talk to you about something that's really interesting to me, and that's Myers-Briggs as well as health and wellness and how those two come together. I'm a person that's always searching for the best way or the right way to complete my day-to-day activities and reach my long-term goals. I'm always somebody that's out there looking for the latest technology to help me be more productive. I'm constantly seeking advice from people and feedback on how to be a good mother, wife, friend. I'm always looking for the best way to stay in shape. And I'm wondering if folks like you might feel the same way. And if you do, if you're one of those people that are always looking for ideas and techniques to be your best, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand for me, that would be great. And so if you are like me, if you're in that same boat, I wanted to share with you a really important lesson that I've learned recently. It's not anything that I've mastered yet, but I do have an understanding of it and I'm working on it. And that lesson is that there's no one best way to be a mother, sister, daughter, boss, employee. But there is a way to leverage your understanding of your personality type so that you can be more confident, so that you can strengthen relationships, and you can, I believe, transform your family and yourself. And that's where the MBTI or Myers-Briggs comes in. And this webinar is designed specifically for women who are interested in better understanding their strengths. They want to know why they struggle from time to time. They want to figure out how they can create more balance in their lives and to be as healthy as possible. So although this is a webinar and we can't see each other face to face, we still can interact. And so I want to just let you know up front that this is not going to be a situation where I'm going to be lecturing. I'm going to share some information and then I'm going to ask for you to react to it. I'm going to ask you to actively participate, either by raising your hand or if you feel comfortable actually, talking to us over the line, I'll ask you to put information in that chat box as well. And I'll stop for questions periodically, and Karen will help me manage that. So she'll let me know when people have raised their hand. She'll let me know when questions are coming in case I miss that. But it's going to be a very active hour. I'm going to have you guys really interacting a lot. So having said that, let's just review again what our goals are for this session. This is an hour all for you, and I have a feeling that you don't have too many hours like that, especially again at this time of year. But this session is really to promote awareness of the Myers-Briggs, and Karen talked a little bit about these objectives up front. We're going to talk about how you can apply these new understandings of personality type to improve relationships, to help you gain balance and recharge. And then, because it's only really the tip of the iceberg around MBTI, I'll share with you some more resources that you can use after our session to go and learn more. Now, I know that we haven't met in person, but I want to let you know that I was thinking about each and every one of you as I put together this session today. And here's what I know about you. I know that because you are Kappas, that means that you're smart, you're hardworking, and that you're successful. I also know that by signing up for today's session that you're motivated. You're motivated to learn, you're motivated to be happy, and you're motivated to be healthy. And sometimes that's half the battle. And what this session really is about is understanding how your personality type impacts how you make decisions. Believe it or not, it really makes a difference on your eating habits, exercising, how you deal with stress, the decisions that you make that may or may not be healthy. And so what the Myers-Briggs can do is help you learn how to use the strengths of your type to create a long-term healthy lifestyle and some great habits. So to get us off and running, I'm going to talk to you about some research that I did this summer. I'm very interested in the Myers-Briggs and how it impacts women, really interested in how it impacts mothers. So I did a survey this summer, and I asked mothers what types of relationships would they like to improve based on a new understanding of personality type through the Myers-Briggs. And Karen has a poll question that she's going to put up for us, because the question to you is, what do you think the respondents told me? And you can go ahead and put your answers there, and then we'll see your results. Okay, so now I'm going to ask for, oh, there you go, there's our results.
We have 75% said spouse, 25% said children, 50% responded friends, and 50% said coworkers, others, coworkers, and employees.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for, first of all, your participation in that first activity there and your input. Now let me tell you what I learned from my study. So number one, the first relationship that was, so the most votes came in for was improving relationships with children. Secondarily was spouse. Coming in third were friends. So now the question is, how can this be helpful for you? So what I'd like to invite you to do is to use the chat box now and just write in which relationship, it might be on this list, maybe it's not, but which relationship would you like to see strengthened as a result of learning more about personality type through the Myers-Briggs? So if you can go ahead and start chatting in your answers, that would be great.
Melinda responded coworkers.
Great, thank you. What else?
Relationships with employer, direct supervisors. And this is from Gloria. She's new in her job and working on developing communication skills in her career. Mm-hmm. Ashley responded friends and family.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your input. And what's so great about the Myers-Briggs is that it is something that can definitely help you in the workplace, and that's where a lot of you might be familiar with this, as well as at home. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me, and I kept notes on that so that while we're going through the rest of the presentation, I'll make sure to connect back to both the work as well as family. And communication skills is such a big thing that you can improve and enhance interpersonally as you understand your type and others. So the second question I asked them on my survey was, tell me about what you hope to take away from the Myers-Briggs in terms of your overall wellness and understanding of yourself. And so I gave them these three choices. I said, do you want to recharge your battery? Do you want to learn how to balance work and home life? Do you want to learn how to capitalize on your strengths? And so I'll tell you what their results were, and then I'm going to have Karen post a poll, and we're going to find out from you guys which of these three would be most interesting for you. So the poll that, or the survey rather, that I did this summer, people came back and said, number one, I want to learn about balance. Number two, a personalized approach to recharge my battery. And number three, some unique ways to really capitalize on my strengths. So we've got the poll open now. So this time you're answering for you. Which one of these would you like to see as an outcome of this session?
Okay. I think we have everyone responding. We have coming in first is capitalize on strengths, and then second is recharge your batteries.
Great. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody. That really helps me understand how to target this next hour so that it's most beneficial for you guys. So thank you for that. So let's start talking about what the Myers-Briggs is. So if you are a person on the line that has taken the Myers-Briggs in the past, could you please raise your hand, and then could you put in the chat box where you took the Myers-Briggs?
So we have two participants that have taken. Kristen took it at a friend, a professor's home. Melinda says at work and in certification. Ashley says at school.
Great. Okay. Gosh, we've covered all of the bases, kind of home, work, and school. So that's great. So for some of you, this is not brand new information, but maybe a refresher, and for others, it might be brand new. So let me just take a couple of moments to talk about what the Myers-Briggs instrument is and what it is not. So the assessment is really one of the best known and most trusted personality tools available today. So I'm not surprised to hear that Melinda used it at work, because most Fortune 100 companies use it, and it really shows up in all industries, really across the world. More than 2 million people worldwide each year take the Myers-Briggs, and it's been translated into dozens of languages. So what's really important to know is, again, it says it on the slide there, it's not a test. It looks at normal behavior, and it is a forced choice situation. And when you use a Myers-Briggs, the results ideally are confidential. And it's very helpful to be used in terms of a training program or a formal school program, coaching. Those are the things that you normally see. Counseling. I know that actually the first time I was introduced to it was when I was going through my pre-Cana, so the programming before we got married. The church had us do that, which I thought was really interesting. The Myers-Briggs has its roots from Carl Jung's theory of psychological type. And Catherine Briggs and her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers, developed Jung's theory and really created the first forms of the Myers-Briggs instrument. And what their goal was really take Jung's work, and they wanted to help individuals grow through an understanding and appreciation of differences and healthy personalities. They really wanted to help people be productive, and they wanted to help people be the best that they could be. I think their story, Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers' story, is really quite fascinating. From the time she was really young, Catherine Briggs wanted to understand people, and she wanted to understand what made people different, what made them unique individuals. She had a need at a very young age to want to help people reach their full potential. And so after years of gradually creating her own formulas and studies, she came upon the framework that Jung used in his book, Psychological Types. And really the rest of her life was focused on studying the works of Jung and really trying to bring the benefits of knowing yourself and how you could apply that to you and how you show up in the world. So it took Catherine and Isabel about 2 decades to put together the Myers-Briggs. And they really worked on it being a simple questionnaire. And it was interesting when Kristen said that she took it at a friend's house. That's what Catherine and Isabel did. They kept working on their instrument, and they had friends and everybody that they could take this assessment for them, and they refined it over the years. So really what the Myers-Briggs does is it helps you become aware of your preferences. And a preference is really what you like. You know, you might like or prefer peppermint candy over butterscotch. You might be a person that prefers reading over watching a movie. But that doesn't mean that sometimes you won't choose the opposite. You might choose butterscotch, or you might choose movies over reading. But in general, you have preferences. And so they were really interested in understanding more about those preferences and how they show up. So having said that, let's do an activity, and this is actually an old-fashioned activity. We're not going to use the computer, but I'm going to ask you to grab a pen and a paper. Give you a second to find that on your desk there. And what I'd like you to do is sign your name. On any piece of scratch paper there, go ahead and sign your name. Okay, hopefully you got that right. Now I'd like you to use the other hand to sign your name. Okay, so hopefully we're all done with that. If you feel comfortable, I'd love for somebody to raise their hand and then be willing to actually talk to us over the line about that experience and how it felt different writing the first time and then writing the second signature. So if anybody feels comfortable to do that, that would be great if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, and then we'll open up the phone line or the audio line to you. Karen, I'm assuming we don't have any takers.
No, not this time.
No takers. Okay, how about this? Why not just in the chat box, give me some words, the first time versus the second time. What stands out from you, writing with your preferred hand versus your non-preferred hand? Could you give us some words in the text, in the chat box?
We have a few. Awkward and slow.
Awkward, slow, yep.
Having to actually think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you for being willing to share that, everybody. And I think it's really important when you said think about it, that you had to be more deliberate and you had to slow down a little bit. And this is a great example of preference because we can use both hands, right? And if you've ever broken your arm or had a problem with your arm or your hand, you might have had to do that at one point in your life. But it's natural, it's comfortable, it's automatic to write with your preferred hand. And so what we're going to be thinking about is that sometimes you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone and you're going to feel a little awkward, maybe a little slow and thinking about it when you're operating in a way that's outside of your preference. So there's a lot of benefits of understanding your preferences and how they affect you. We can really loop back to, and I'm sorry, I don't know who said it at the start, but it will impact your communication style, right? Your preference might be to communicate via email and not want to be face-to-face. Sometimes the situation might require you to communicate face-to-face versus email, and that might feel awkward, slow, and you have to think about it more. Preferences also allow us to have different interests from other people, different ways of behaving, and different ways of seeing the world. Our preferences influence decisions we make around eating, exercising, and dealing with stress. So all preferences are equal, but it's really important for us to remember that there's different strengths and challenges with each one. And if we can understand what the strengths and the challenges are for ourselves, then you can help to understand and appreciate how everybody that you work with or that's in your family can contribute to solving a problem, to getting through the holidays, whatever it might be. So the MBTI is just one instrument that can help you understand and uncover your preferences. And the way that it does that is around these 4 dichotomies. So there's 4 pairs of opposites, kind of like your left and your right hands. We all use both of these, but we have a natural preference for one or the other. And that's why the Myers-Briggs is a forced choice. It's helping us to indicate which of these preferences are inborn and which is not. It's not designed to measure our skill. It's not designed to measure the effects of the environment. So you can see the first one, we've got all of these letters here that if you've taken the Myers-Briggs before, these might start to sound familiar to you. You're extrovert, which is an E, introvert, which is an I. Sensing S, intuition is an N, because we've already used the I in introvert. You've got thinking T or feeling F, judging J, or P for perceiving. So let's talk about what each one of these mean. And this is a time pretty soon here where we're going to have some polls come up again. So listen close and then get ready to do a quick poll. This slide is talking about the first dichotomy. We've got extraversion or introversion. And so at first people really think this is either the loud person in the room, the outgoing person in the room, or the quiet person in the room. But what I hope you understand from our session is that what Isabel and Catherine talked about is this is where we focus our attention and get energy. And so people sometimes get their energy from the outside world, from people and events. That would be your extrovert. Or you could be a person that gets their energy from the inside, their inner environment, their thoughts or experiences, and that's introversion. So the best way to think about this is after the long, hard week of work and family and everything that goes on in your personal life, how do you like to spend that Friday night? The extrovert is really excited. They're going to get recharged. They're going to get energy by being with people and going to a fun event. Introvert, on the other side, they'll get their energy by sitting and reading or journaling internal stuff. So now we're going to have Karen open up a poll, and if you have taken the Myers-Briggs before, you might know what you are. But if you haven't, go ahead and take a guess based on what we just said. Let's find out extroversion or introversion where you are.
And here are our results. Looks like we're an even split.
All right.
50% introversion, 50% extroversion.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Let's move on to the next pair. Sensing or intuition. And this is how we take in information and the kinds of information we trust. So some people take in information primarily through their 5 senses and immediate experiences from people. It's usually from people or things in their environment. And that would be your sensing. Then there are people that make decisions and take in information primarily through hunches or impressions that they have. So again, we'll open up the poll. Are you a person that uses your senses when you're taking information? And what type of information you really trust? Or do you go more with your gut and with hunches? If you've taken it in the past, you might know. If not, go ahead and take a guess.
Again, we have an even split.
All right. Interesting. Very interesting. Our next pair is thinking or feeling. And this is really how we make decisions. So in the prior slide, we talked about the information that we take in and what information we trust. Now this is about, now how do you make decisions and choices based on that information? So there are people that make decisions primarily on logic and objective analysis. They're thinking of cause and effect. Or there's people that prefer to base decisions on feelings, on their personal values, and considering what's important to people. So we'll go ahead and have Karen open up this poll. Are you T or F?
Again, it's evenly split, 50% thinking, 50% feeling.
Okay.
And quickly
Okay.
share the results for you.
Thank you, Karen. And here we are at our last pair, judging or perceiving. And this is our attitude towards the external world and how we orient ourselves to it. So the judging person likes a planned, organized, structured approach to life. Or the perceiving person likes flexibility, spontaneity, and keeping their options open. It's time for polling again. And let's see if we're coming up 50-50 for the last one.
Oh, we have 100% judgers.
Oh, okay, cool. So if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and write down what you think your 4 letters are on a scratch piece of paper there. Because when you combine all those preferences, that's where you get your personality type. So you might have heard people say, I'm an ESFP, or I'm an ISTJ. And so that's what they're doing. And again, we just gave you a real high-level overview. If you take the instrument, your results could be different. And it'll be interesting for you to compare what you thought they might be and what they are when you actually take it. So my type, just to share with you, I'm an INFJ. So let me tell you a little bit about that, because what you will receive when you get your results is a whole bunch of information about your type as well as other types. So in general, INFJs are gentle, caring, complex, highly intuitive people, artistic and creative, and they live in the world of hidden meanings and possibilities. Only 1% of the population has an INFJ personality type, so it's one of the most rare of all the types. For INFJs, we place a great importance on having things orderly and systematic in our world. We put a lot of energy in identifying the best system for getting things done, and we constantly define and redefine priorities in our lives. So some of it sounds a little horoscopy, I will admit. But what's important to be able to do the more you learn about it is really understand what of that is true for me and what is not. And how does that apply to different situations? I am an introvert, but obviously in situations like this and at work, I have to extrovert an awful lot. And so I have to understand for my wellness and my well-being how to take care of myself, because I will be drained after a day of coaching and training and working with people. I need to understand what I have to do to recoup, recharge, and get back to being whole again. Another thing that how it relates kind of to wellness and what I've learned about myself through the Myers-Briggs is that INFJs love to have plans. I love plans. I love structure. And where that really shows up for me in a good way is it translates to my exercise. So I'm a runner, and I run marathons and half marathons and all that good stuff. I don't run them fast by any means, but I love to follow my training plan. I love to set goals. And what I know what works for me is the strength of an INFJ is to set a goal, to prioritize, and to work a plan. And if I do that, I know that my health is going to benefit. And I'll probably be a whole lot nicer to be around on the other end. So I'm going to pause and see what questions you guys might have. You can raise your hand, you can chime in over the audio line, or you can chat them. What questions do you have for me?
We'll give everyone a minute to think about their questions. And it looks like we might be ready to continue. Everybody's pretty solid right now.
Great. So I wanted to share this table with you because it shows you the 16 personality types. And we all have to interact with all of these types. So the more you learn about your style and your type, your preferences, and really identifying other people's preferences, you can better manage your relationships based on type. So I want you to think about your best relationships that you have. They could be at work, they could be in your personal life. And I want to see if you agree with what I've put on this slide. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand as I go through this. But I believe that personality and preferences play a major role in our friendships, our relationships at work, and in our families. And they can be complex, but understanding your partner, understanding yourself, can really help improve communications and develop mutual respect for people. So would you agree, are these, when you think about your best relationships, are these the three things that might show up in each one of your relationships? And if I've missed something, please go ahead and enter that in the chat box.
And it looks like everyone agrees.
Agrees. Good. Okay. So what's important to remember is that all relationships take effort. They don't just happen, right? And the kind of effort involved will really vary depending on your style, your type, your preference, and the other person's. If you can find out what you differ on, you can be proactive and work to kind of navigate and overcome some potential obstacles. If we think about communications, I know that was something that somebody mentioned early on. You know, communicating introvert versus extrovert is really interesting. You know, I was coaching an introvert, and she was saying, why does everybody have to keep coming to my desk and talking to me? I don't understand. And that was wearing her out. And we had to talk about, because she had gone through the Myers-Briggs, what style and what type do you think they might be? Why are they operating that way? And how are we going to help you succeed in a workplace that has a lot of extroverts? So we had to come up with some strategies around that. You can also think about communicating in terms of the sensing or the intuitive. You know, if you're communicating with somebody who likes to use the sensing style, that's their preference, you're going to want to talk about their 5 senses, how they like to take in information, right? What's happening around them in their environment, what they can see, feel, touch, even though you might be an intuitive person that really goes on kind of your hunches and your guts. So that's going to differentiate how you communicate with them. You can think about it in terms of thinking and feeling, right? You'll start to notice this now, that your thinkers, when they communicate, they're going to say, this is what I think. Your feelers will say, I feel this way, or I feel that way. So they're going to actually start using those words that you're going to clue in on. And so again, when you're communicating, if you understand your style, you might have to adapt it, which might feel a little slow and awkward, but at the end of the day, it's going to help you have a more productive discussion with that person. That's really what the mutual respect is all about. You know, it's accepting differences and trying to understand how you can work within that mutual respect part, and enjoying the diversity. What I think is interesting is that my husband's style is pretty much the opposite of mine. He's an ESTP. So that's an outgoing person, enthusiastic, it's a doer. I always say that he's the busiest guy in the world. Lives in the here and now. He's ready to go. And all of that is pretty different from me. So party and social events energize him and they drain me. But what we've had to learn is to figure out how to leverage our strengths so that we don't kill each other. You know, he can help me step out of my comfort zone, and I can help balance him out and slow him down as well. Questions or comments on the relationship piece? Feel free to use the chat box.
This is just a comment that thinking about the communication styles, when someone responds differently than you expect, it might not be that they might just be coming from a different communication style, and they might not mean their message the way that you're perceiving it if you come from the opposite.
Oh, that is great insight. Really important. Yeah, so, you know, if you are a person that, like me, my style, what stresses me out and what I miss all the time are details. And if I work with somebody that's the opposite, and every time we're having a meeting, she's asking me about details, I could perceive that as, gosh, won't she get off my back? Why is she always badgering me with those questions? You know, and what I can do as a result of understanding types and preferences and kind of her viewpoint is it has nothing to do with me. You know, that's what she values. That's what's important to her. And so really understanding that it's all about the other person, you know, when you're trying to have a good communication and it's not always about you, is such an important point. Thank you for sharing that. Good.
And that's all we have right now.
Great. So let's talk about embracing your unique style. So I shared at the opening of the session that I've been really working on, and one of the things that I've learned is that I don't need to be perfect. What I need to be is, what I need to strive for is to be the best me that I can be. And the reality is that our children don't need perfect mothers, our husbands don't need perfect wives, mothers don't need perfect children, because as human beings, they themselves will never be perfect either. But what people need is a mother, a wife, sister, friend, employee who can make the most of their strengths, can feel comfortable articulating their strengths, and that we can model that both for our children and our friends. That's something that I think we could all strive for and would really be positive. So my message is to learn about yourself and then work to understand others. And so one way you can do that is by actually taking the Myers-Briggs, and if it's been a while and you have the opportunity to do it again and really sit and talk and go through your results with somebody, it's a really powerful experience. And what I hope you can do is take a very appreciative approach and reflect on your strengths. You know, if you think about the highlights of your life, your highlights of this week, highlights of last week, of the day, chances are it was when you were operating from your strengths, when you were being very comfortable with your uniqueness. And that's usually when you're most productive and you're most happy. So if you can learn to trust yourself, you know, you don't always have to rely on others for advice, for input about how to be the best you. But if you take the time and the quiet to decide what you think about yourself, I think that's how we can become powerful. That's how we can really trust our strengths and gain confidence in who we are. In order to do that, I think you really need to take time to recharge, let go of stress, and try to focus on what's good. Focus on what's working rather than stressing about what's broken. Learning about your style and what works for you in terms of recharging and your energy is really important, and that's something that the Myers-Briggs can do for you. I thought this was a great quote. This is a woman, Janet Penley, and her book is called Mother Styles, and I just thought this fits so well with what we're talking about. Taking care of yourself is the first and best way to take good care of others, improve relationships, and live a happy life. Because the reality is that people don't react to stress in the same way. If it's at work or at home, we're going to encounter stressors, and they can undermine your performance at work, and they can impact your health. But the Myers-Briggs can help you recognize what are the circumstances or events that are going to be triggers for you. And so if you can recognize what those triggers are, and then you can come up with a unique strategy, a plan that's personal for you that will really help you take care of your stress in a positive way. So again, I'll go back to me. To cope, when I'm stressed, in order for me to overcome that and to be at my best, I need space. I need to go outside. I need to go for a run. Alone time really helps me regain and get balance. What about you? I'm going to ask you guys, what rituals help you stay healthy? What helps you stay on top of your game or be your best? Could you give us some ideas in the chat box?
This is from another introvert, running again, writing.
Great.
And that covers it.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you're starting to recognize what works for you. And then what I have in the next few slides are some thoughts, if you're an introvert or an extrovert, and each of the dichotomies we'll go through, that might help you recharge. So if you want to take notes or set some goals for yourself, go ahead and do that. So again, introvert and extrovert, this is where people get their energy from. So the extroverts that need to recharge, you're going to want to go out with people and activity. But the one thing I want to caution extroverts is that they too will get burnt out with people. And so it's important for you to understand when to say no and guard your time. Introverts, we kind of heard a couple of ideas, so I appreciate you chatting that in the answer. Quiet time for reflection, journaling, running, finding ways for others to find time for external stimulation. So this comes back to, my personal relationship. There's times that I know I need to be alone, but I know the opposite is the need for my husband, the extrovert. So I need to figure out how to let him go out, have fun, do something, and not expect him to want to recharge the same way I do. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and write down one goal that might work for you depending on your style. Then we'll move into sensing or intuition. And this is about taking in information and what information you trust. So again, as we're looking through these, write down a goal for yourself. But the sensing person, as you can see, we're talking about stimulating the senses there. Go to a museum, take a walk outside, or bake. Schedule time for errands and housework. Make sure it's in the book so it actually gets done. You're intuitive. Give yourself permission and time to do the daydreaming. And intuitives often want to make big changes, and that can kind of set yourself up for failure, so work on really making moderate changes. So again, write down one goal for yourself there. I'm going to move on to thinking and feeling, and this is how we make decisions. So thinking, go ahead and put your thinking skills and talents to work. So I know some people really get interested in doing puzzles or helping somebody else solve a problem. That gets them energized. I also want to, just encourage you to balance criticism with appreciation. Once you do that, you're going to see some great positive reaction from other people, and that's going to help you kind of recharge and feel good about yourself. Feeling, take time off from being needed. That's really about the feelers out there are all about people. They're wanting to help people solve their problems. Sometimes you need to step away from that. And I'm going to also encourage you to think about how you can consult with a thinker, who again is going to expose you to a whole new way of making decisions. You'll get energized by that for sure. So hopefully you've written down a goal there. And then we'll move on to the last one, judging or perceiving. And this is again how you orient yourself to the world. So the judger, so these people like to have order, and they get very upset when they're operating in disorder. So instead of trying to organize the whole house and be in charge of a perceiving son or daughter's room that's always going to be disorderly, find one room, one place that you can be in control of and that you can put in order. And don't forget to put having fun on the top of your priority list. And then perceivers, give yourself time free of schedule, have a little play time, and try not to make too many rules. So hopefully you have some ideas of how this can be really practical and applied to you right away. So in wrapping up, what I wanted to share with you are resources that I have found very helpful. The first is a website. It's an organization that provides lots of materials and education and actually certification for the Myers-Briggs. You can also connect with people in your area that are certified and might be able to help you if you want to take advantage of the Myers-Briggs. Mother Styles is the book I was talking about, Janet Penley. If you're a mother, you'll really appreciate that because it talks all about your relationship with spouse and children and style. The Just Your Type is really about relationships and understanding the strengths that you have and the strength of the other person and how you can appreciate your partner in a new way. And then lastly, the families one is all about how couples, children, and even extended family can use personality types to sometimes bridge the distance that's grown in those relationships over the years. So the final question is, what are your plans? How do you want to apply what you've learned from our time together? And if you feel comfortable, I'd love it if anybody wants to chat in the box there what they would like to do as a result of this session.
It looks like our participants are going to keep their goals on the private side.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Well, I hope that this was a valuable use of your time. Oh, go ahead.
And we did have someone willing to share. I'm sorry to interrupt. It just showed up on my screen. Finding time for reflection and to balance criticism with appreciation.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that's really important, that balance piece, criticism and appreciation. And that's a great, you know, if we start to think about these in terms of potential New Year's resolutions, you know, of just trying to appreciate something every day would be a really great, nice first step. So again, I thank you so much for your time. I hope that this session has been beneficial and that we achieved the goals that we set out. This was really just about promoting awareness of how the Myers-Briggs can be used in our personal life. And because some of you are interested in the work aspect, I tried to hit on that as well, because obviously it's got tons of application there. So although we didn't get to take the Myers-Briggs on this, that might be an action step that some of you want to, is to reach out and do that and figure out how it can help you really capitalize on your strengths and be the best person, you know, that you can be. Don't hesitate to email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. I put my contact information on this screen, and I'd love to hear from you if anybody's interested. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, so if anybody's even close by, I would love to chat with you. Thank you again, and I appreciate your time.